you had to guess, like, what percentage of politicians are influenced or compromised in some sort of way, what number would that look like?
Well, there's different types of compromise. Most people think compromise and they think, foreign compromise, right. Chinese, the Iranians, the Russians, but most of the time it's not that. Most of the time it's people who have interesting private lives, shall we say. And it's just so obvious that it's insider trading. It's like, hey man, I just call up my financial broker. I say, dude, don't look at the market. Just do whatever Nancy Pelosi does and you'll be all right.
All right, guys, we got Jack here today. We're at AmFest, day 3. What an event it has been, man.
It's been wild. I've been coming here since 2021, since the first one. I haven't missed an AmFest yet, and it's clearly the biggest one. All credit, obviously, to Charlie for what he did, and not just in building the event, but also in being able to have this incredible victory electorally and culturally, too, because I think there's been a cultural shift. And now with America Fest happening the way it did, I always say it happened to be like this. It's almost biblical, right? Like you got to go through the wilderness for all those years before you finally arrive at the promised land. And, it's kind of like one of those journeys that we've been on. And, full credit to Charlie for doing that and seeing that when, people told him not to. People said, what are you doing? Why are you guys doing this? There's so many other things you could be doing with your time, because we could see it. We could just see it all the way down. And now here we are. And I think more people are seeing it now too.
Yeah, it's been a great event despite all the drama this week. Had some speakers back out last minute.
A little bit. Hey, it wouldn't be a turning point event without a little bit of drama. You know what I'm saying?
And you're Charlie. And you're dealing with some beef too while it's going on with Nancy Mace.
And yeah, that was a weird one. I did not expect to wake up to seeing that. Just a strange thing to say to a married man. But look, with some of these types, Here's my thing with when it comes to January 6th, when it comes to collaborating with Nancy Pelosi, the other Nancy, and Liz Cheney and all the rest of it, it's as simple as this. It's as simple as this. We are going to drop the receipts on everyone, and we're going to examine everyone's record. And if there are things that people have done in the past that affected real change, by the way. So she voted to send Steve Bannon to jail.
Right.
And Steve Bannon had to do jail, not years ago, by the way, this year, 4 months that he had to spend in jail, that he should have been able to do his show, that he should have been free, that he should have been with his family, that he should have been getting involved in the campaign, should have been helping people out. He was in jail. And so the people who played a part in that, I'm very sorry to anyone whose feelings that I might upset by this, but we're just going to have to bring the facts out and let the people decide for themselves.
Yeah, if you had to guess, like, what percentage of politicians are influenced or compromised in some sort of way, what number would that look like?
Well, there's different types of compromise. So I'd have to think about it in terms of that, but there's all sorts of compromise. Most people think compromise and they think, foreign compromise, the Chinese, the Iranians, the Russians, but most of the time it's not that. Most of the time it's, people who have interesting private lives, shall we say. And I've certainly got lots of information about that with various politicians. Other times it's, not going to name names right now, but the she's and he's know who they are. And when it comes to, and money too, people taking money from places that they shouldn't be, people taking way more money they shouldn't be, the stock trades that go out. And it's just so obvious that it's insider trading. It's so obvious. Or it's like, hey man, I just call up my financial broker. I say, dude, don't look at the market. Just do whatever Nancy Pelosi does and you'll be all right.
Yeah. She's up, 80% this year?
It's incredible. God bless her. I mean, she has a knack for it. I don't know what it could be.
Well done. What do you think should change in terms of laws for that?
Well, I think, quite frankly, you've got to stop the individual trading and buying and selling of stocks. It's as simple as that. That's number one. There's a few things that I would look at down the line. I'm actually not someone who's, so I think what you ultimately need to do is break the influence of the corporate interests and the special interests and the appropriators. And obviously we had this big CR bill this week in Congress, and that's going to take time. And so people say term limits, right? They'll say, oh, let's do term limits and, make it so they can only be here 2 terms, 3 terms, whatever it is. But if you get rid of term limits, think about it. Who's going to be the ones that stay in Washington? The professional Washington class, the lobbyists, the appropriators, and all the rest of it. And so you're going to be some congressman that you get elected from Texas or Pennsylvania or whatever it is. Maybe you mean to do well, but then you get to DC and suddenly the lobbyists start throwing these bills at you. They start inviting you to the parties and you think, oh, well, if this is what everybody does, this is what I've got to do. But so that's the system that's got to break. So that's why I'm actually not for term limits, because I think if you do term limits, you set up a situation where those moneyed interests and corporate interests get all the
Shout out to today's sponsor, Prolon. If starting the year with a fast feels a little daunting, you're not alone. There's an entire community of individuals wanting to make a meaningful decision in their health, just like you. This is what makes group fasting so powerful and why I'm joining in on Prolon's January Longevity Challenge, which is a coach-led program to set you up for fasting success. Prolon's fasting mimicking diet is a revolutionary plant-based nutrition program that nourishes the body while making cells believe they're fasting. I got all 5 boxes here and I'm starting day 1 tomorrow. It's researched and developed for decades at USC's Longevity Institute and backed by leading US medical centers. It helps promote healthy blood sugar, enhanced skin appearance, fat loss, and improved energy and focus. It all starts with their 5-day program, which contains snacks, soups, and beverages designed to keep the body in a fasting state. No guesswork or planning required, which is a relief after a busy holiday. If you guys are ready to make 2025 your healthiest year yet, order your Prolon 5-day kit at prolonlife.com/DSH. And they're offering Digital Social Hour listeners 15% off their 5-day nutrition program. Use the code DSH at prolonlife.com/DSH.
the power. And so I would keep unlimited terms. People are, I was half joking a little bit on stage to say maybe even go back to that for the presidency.
Yes.
But when it comes down to it, you've got to get that money and influence out by, number one, making it, but it's got to be transparent. So take the CR bill, for example. If someone put all of these, spending, they call it riders or they call it, appropriations bills, pork is sort of the slang way for it. Okay, well, if you slip something in the bill, your name should be next to that. Put the congressman's name next to whatever they put in every single line item. And then if you do that, now I can track it back. And now I could go to the constituents of that area as an influencer, whatever side of the aisle you're on, by the way.
Yeah.
You can go back and say, why did you do this? Do you have someone in your district that was pushing you to do that? Do you have a donor that was pushing you to do that? We need radical, absolutely radical accountability. I love what Elon and Vivek are talking about, but at the same time, Doge is going to run into a lot of headwinds, like you saw with the CR this week and the budget this week. That's obviously what my little dust up on social media came out of, and a few others. Not that mine was any important at all, but you're going to run into that. And I hope that Elon and Vivek have understood, and more importantly, though, I hope that the people of Washington, D.C. understand, like Mike Johnson and these others, that we're not joking when we say it's not business as usual anymore.
Right.
It's not.
I mean, Elon already proved with Twitter, he got rid of 90%, and it's operating better than ever.
Yeah, so why can't you do that for the U.S. government? Why can't you do that? Why do we need 18 intelligence agencies? Why do we need so many Department of Education, Department of Education that doesn't produce any education, Department of Energy that doesn't produce any energy?
Yeah.
Why do we have these things? And then the same, you go in the whole list, transportation, all these departments that are complete nonsense. They're complete jokes. And every time the government spends, that's a tax on you. Right. That's a tax on me. Anytime the government spends anything. So we have to start thinking about it.
Yeah. Well, they just don't treat the money like it's their own. It's a psychological thing.
Well, and they know that, right? So they know that they can go over to the Fed and the Fed can print whatever they want. It's going to be a quantitative easing, right? No, they can go over to the money printer go burr. Then they print that out. So now they got it out. Then they go over to then they lend it to their buddies on Wall Street. Then their buddies at the big investment banks are going out and spending it everywhere. They put it in biotech, they put it in Silicon Valley, wherever it is. So everybody there is living large. But guess what? As that money goes out, that filters down throughout society. The way I'm knocking down the microphone here, that filters down through society. And what does it increases? It shows to us as increased prices on everything in our world. And that's what we deal with. So the French used to have a phrase for this. They called it the Catian effect. And whenever a new gold mine was found in the Kingdom of France, they would find that you would think that, oh, well, would that help the people who live around the gold mine? Yeah. No. What it helped was the people closest to the throne, the people closest to the crown got richer. And then all of a sudden, the people who lived around saw their prices go up and up and up. And I say, wow, this is exactly what's going on now today. It's never changed.
Right. So you do believe the deep state is real and it has pretty much power over the government right now?
Well, I think the deep state's got three playbooks. I think they're real, and I think they have 3 playbooks. The first one is the Kavanaugh. So you smear somebody either through sexual innuendo or nonsense stories. They tried that with Pete Hegseth, of course.
Yep.
Then if that doesn't work, they go to the Nixon, and the Nixon is when they try to get you out of office with lawfare. Of course, they tried all these with Trump, by the way. They got rid of Nixon out of lawfare because he didn't have independent media the way we have independent media today to actually be able to present another side to the story. And then finally, if that doesn't work, plan 3, the JFK. And of course, they've tried all 3 of them on President Trump. So we talk about these in the first book, Unhumans, here, and in my second book, Bulletproof. we just walked through how presidential assassinations have been used in this country for a long time. And what we essentially call this last one is a system of intentional negligence from the Secret Service to what are the odds that a guy who's got malicious intent to kill and is a trained marksman shows up on a day where there are 12 independent security failures from the Secret Service? We actually took all that information. We plugged in into GPT-4.
Yeah.
So Brock wasn't really around yet, but we plugged all that GPT-4. We said, what are the odds? We actually asked it. And it said the odds are 1 in 1 septillion. So that's like you going to Vegas and flipping a coin and it coming up heads 95 times in a row.
Wow.
Now, if you tried that on the floor of your favorite casino, you'd be arrested. I'd be arrested. We'd be hauled out because that's obviously a lie. It's obviously someone's cheating. But in the U.S. government, they say, oh, that was just a failure. No, I think the way to look at it is, was this a security failure or was this an operational success to allow him to do what he did?
Yeah, I don't believe in coincidences.
No, as the great Steve Bannon loves to say, there are no conspiracies, but there are no coincidences.
I hope the JFK files get released this term.
Look, one of the ideas that I had said on my podcast a couple of months ago was, with RFK coming in, you've got to create a commission on presidential assassinations and attempted assassinations. So go back to JFK, go to RFK, go to Reagan, any of these things.
Yep.
And then Butler, Pennsylvania as well, put that out. We've got the blueprint right here with Bulletproof, and then make RFK Jr., give him the ability to declassify the files on his own father and his own uncle. The very next day, when Donald Trump puts him on stage at Phoenix, Arizona, that's exactly what he said.
That'd be amazing. I know you've probably been asked this all week, but the Nick Fuentes situation, does that worry you as someone that stirs up a lot of controversy?
Oh, of course. I mean, anyone who's online, controversial or not, you're out there, your name's out there. That's the number one thing. That's the number one thing you've got to be concerned about. Now, myself, I live in an area, there's a lot of veterans, a lot of military, a lot of law enforcement, and my family, look, my house is fully secured. We've got, not cameras everywhere, but we're also great defenders of the Second Amendment, and we love our Second Amendment. And should anyone ever want to find that out, they'd be more than welcome to find that out at my house. But look, my parents have been swatted. They were swatted this time last year.
Holy crap.
Because my address is a little hard to find, but my parents' address was the one that these types could find. And it took us some time. We were able to track down the people who did it. Those people are in federal prison right now. They're awaiting trial. And the fact of the matter remains, though, that this is serious stuff. This is real serious stuff. And, obviously we don't know all the details about the situation with Nick. But we know obviously that this individual seems to have committed some other murders that very same, even killed some dogs, and, was what had intent to kill. I would say it's pretty clear he had intent to kill. And that's something that, look, I would even say the same thing if it was somebody on the left. I would say if it was Destiny, if it was AOC, whatever, because you got to draw lines. And unfortunately, though, it's been the left, and we talk about this on Non-Humans, where they lionize this guy, Luigi Maggioni, who goes and does the exact same thing because they don't like the fact that the guy is a healthcare CEO.
Yep.
And I'm sitting there going, wait a minute, so you're totally fine with street murders now? So we can all just decide to take this into our own hands? What if I were to say that about, I don't know, what if it was a biopharma CEO and someone was vaccine injured, or someone's kid had autism and decided to take that matters into your own hands? Would you be so cavalier about saying it then? What if it was someone who's anti-abortion and they had an abortion in their family and they wanted to do something like that? And God forbid, right? God forbid any of these things happen. But when you start playing footsies with the murderous, lethal ideology like that, it is communist. And we always know, and we detail it on Humans, what happens. You end up with piles of skulls and mass graves every single time.
Absolutely. You got to draw the line at doxing and swatting, I'd say.
Exactly.
You can say whatever you want online, free speech, but...
Yeah, I believe in free speech. Let's have it out. Got a congresswoman saying she doesn't want to have sex with me, okay, but fine, whatever. She can free to be as crazy as she wants, but I would just like if we could have one conversation with Nancy Mace or a prayer breakfast that doesn't somehow involve her weirdly bringing up having sex. I don't know why, but it's like, fine, whatever. Like, I'm not going to put out her address, and I'm glad that she would never do anything like that with me either, because you can have a debate without having to go to that level.
Absolutely. Last question. What did you think of Soros buying Hot Ones, the podcast last week?
Look, he is attempting, and then really, I think it's Alex Soros now more than George.
Yep.
They're realizing that the mainstream media model that they had before, the NGO model and the investigative journalists, that's not where people are anymore. 2024 was a podcast election. So you are going to see George Soros buying more and more podcasts. You're going to see him he's already trying to get iHeartRadio. Right. He's trying to get Audacity. You're going to see him trying to move more and more and to take over the space. That's why independent podcasts and independent streamers are going to become 10 times more powerful, but also 10 times more threatened as you become more powerful.
Absolutely. Jack, what do you got next? Any books? Where can people find you?
Funny enough, so yeah, we've got the book bundle out right now, but my son requested recently that he said, Daddy, do you think you guys could write a book about Jesus? And I said, what book about Jesus? I was like, you know what? Maybe we will. We'll see.
Awesome.
And yeah, Jack Posobiec, the books, Maga Christmas books. You can find me if you want to find me, just go look at Media Matters, Washington Post, MSNBC. They can't stop talking about it.
Absolutely. Thanks for coming on, man.
Appreciate it.
Thanks for watching, guys. Peace.